What the fuck was that? Backlash 2018. Probably the worst WWE show that I've seen since Battleground last year. This show sucked. This show was so bad. And what's funny is that it started off with probably the best match that I've seen in a year, maybe. The opening match to this show was phenomenal, fantastic. The Miz versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship was absolutely phenomenal. And it got my hopes up. But this keeps happening, where shitty shows start off with phenomenal matches, and that opening match in and of itself is the peak of the entire show. And the entire show afterwards just tanks. And this show just tanked afterwards. And the card wasn't even that bad. The card wasn't that bad, but it's WWE, and they just managed to fuck it up. They turned what was probably the most anticipated feud in recent memory, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, into a complete joke. A total joke, which I'll get to later on. The main event started off really cool, really great, and I thought that it was going to be something impactful, and I thought that maybe, just maybe, they would do the right thing with it. But of course, it's WWE, and they found a way to fuck it up. Is it not glaringly obvious that Roman Reigns is not the fucking guy? Is it not glaringly obvious that Roman Reigns is not the guy? He is not the guy. He's not the guy. The guy. He's not. He's not. Do you know who the guy is? Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is the guy. He is the guy. Seth Rollins is an amazing athlete, infinitely more charismatic than Roman Reigns. There's more range and variability in the way that he speaks. Sure, he isn't one of the muscle-bound superstars, but you don't have to be nowadays in order to be the face of the company. He's way more over than Reigns. He's a more likable guy. Athletically, he's much more gifted. And Seth Rollins is a big name that the company could make the top star, right next to Braun Strowman. Both of those guys are on equal playing ground, although I would say Seth Rollins is just a little bit more of the guy, because I just think there's more variability in what they can do with him. Braun Strowman is just an enormous monster tank, and there's only so much that a guy who looks like him of his size can do in the ring. So I think you want someone like Seth Rollins, who is more innovative, who has a more creative, wider moveset to lead the company. Roman Reigns has been a complete failure of an experiment. And here's the thing. I actually like Roman Reigns. I like Roman Reigns. I think he's fine in the ring. I don't think he's that bad on the mic. He is pretty bad. But I don't think he's that bad on the mic. And I think he's got a good look. But there's just something not there. There's something that isn't connecting between him and the audience. I mean, you don't need to look any further. The company was in Saudi Arabia, and he's still getting booed when he comes out. Like, noticeably booed when he comes out. The company is very clearly muting the mics now of the crowd when he walks out, because they want to hold on to the image that he is the face of the company. And if, the audience back at home is hearing these deafening boos, there is a conflict there. So the company tries to mute the crowd, but you still hear these deafening boos. Roman Reigns is just not the guy. They need to do something else with him and put someone else, cough, cough, Seth Rollins, cough, cough, in that main event slot and give him the Universal Championship. It should be Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship, or even Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman. But like I said, I just think they need someone who is more who has more diversity in them from a movement, in ring, and speaking perspective to lead the company. And that guy to me is 100% Seth Rollins. So let's start reviewing this complete another crapshoot shit show that was Backlash 2018. I'm going to skip the pre-show, didn't give a shit. Ruby Riott versus Bayley, just who cares? Who gives a fuck? So I didn't even watch it. The show started out with The Miz versus Seth Rollins. Like I just said, this match was a 4.5 star match, maybe 4.75 stars. This match was amazing. Absolutely incredible. And here's the thing, The Miz is damn good as well. People don't give The Miz enough credit. He can hold his own in the ring. Looked great, great moveset, doesn't botch as far as I can see. Everything looks slick. Of course, he's a great talker. I would argue one of the best right now in the company, The Miz, maybe top 3, maybe top 2 as far as cutting a promo. But in the ring, he holds his own, and this match was just great. There was a spot where Seth Rollins had The Miz seated up against one of the ring posts. He was seated on the apron against the ring post. Rollins runs towards The Miz to give him a knee. The Miz rolls out the way. Rollins smashes his knee into the post, and the noise that this made, it sounded like Seth Rollins just about busted his knee open. The crack that just echoed through the arena. I mean, I don't know what they're doing to make that sound, but that was a really, really great spot. And from that point onwards until the end of the match, Seth Rollins just did a phenomenal job of selling his knee. Kicked out of 2 of The Miz's finishing moves. I'm skull crushing finale. Sorry, I was forgetting the name there. Kicked out of 2 of them. There was this great spot where Seth Rollins had The Miz on the top of the turnbuckle, superplexed him onto the ring, rolled backwards to give him the Falcon Arrow that he does, but his knee gave out, which led The Miz to giving him another skull-crushing finale, which Seth Rollins kicked out of. That was a great near fall, because it's getting to the point in the company where there's so many near falls where the meaning of them has kind of gone, and even though they're kind of cool, they're getting a little bit predictable. But this was one that really stood out. I mean, this was one that could have easily ended the match, and I thought was going to end the match. I mean, I don't remember a superstar ever kicking out of 2 skull-crushing finales. So this was cool. This was a great moment. The match ended with Seth Rollins giving The Miz a curb stomp, and he's still your Intercontinental Championship. I can't go on anymore about just how superb Seth Rollins is. Just amazing, phenomenal athlete. So the show just tanked right after this. Next up, we got Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. This match fucking sucked. I give it probably 1.75 stars. Just sucked. I mean, I've been reading some reviews and watching some video reviews of the show, and people are just giving this match too much credit, saying that it wasn't too bad. The match fucking sucked. It was just boring. And here's the thing. I mean, it's pro wrestling, it's WWE, so it's fake, or not fake, but it's scripted, and it's like anybody can compete against anyone. Obviously, it's about telling a story, but there's only a certain point that you can reach before it becomes just too unbelievable. Nia Jax is like 300 pounds or whatever. Alexa Bliss is a fucking twig. So there's just no way in hell you can ever wrap your mind around the possibility of Alexa Bliss holding her own against this monster of a woman. There's just no way. The match absolutely sucked. It ended with Nia Jax giving Alexa Bliss a Samoan drop. She got the pin. Who cares? And to cap off this absolute complete shit match, she cuts a promo, but it wasn't even really a promo. It felt more like she was being kind of a spokeswoman for their anti-bullying campaign. And she basically got on the mic afterwards. Renee was next to her, and she was going on and on and on about, how bullies end up getting their ass kicked, and, to be a star. and, telling the crowd that they're all special, yada, yada, yada. And to make this even worse, the crowd was just shitting all over her while she was doing it, which was pretty awkward, kind of uncomfortable, I'd even argue. So that was that match. 1.75 stars. Just end this feud. And nobody wants to see Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. Nobody wants to see it. It was terrible. Awful. Next, we got Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. This was a monumental disappointment. These wrestlers haven't fought each other for 10 years, I think they said. And so, they had a chance to put on a good match. And I just get the feeling that Randy Orton doesn't really give a shit. And I can't really blame him, to be honest. He's just someone that, just kind of does the job and then leaves. That's it. But he is a great athlete. I mean, he really is. I mean, his dropkick just looks superb, looks phenomenal. There was this spot where Jeff Hardy sprung off the top rope and Orton caught him with one of his high drop kicks that he does, and it just looks great. He has really great instincts and very good precision as well. But the match was terrible. I mean, the match wasn't terrible, sorry. It was lackluster. That's what it was. I would give it about 2.5 stars. It lasted maybe 10 to 12 minutes, and it was just one of those matches where as soon as the momentum starts picking up, it ends right there. Randy Orton was in control the entire match, and then out of nowhere, Hardy just hits a twist of fate. Swanton bomb, that's it. 1, 2, 3. Jeff Hardy is still your U.S. champion. And I think Jeff Hardy is a great superstar. I think that he's a great champion, but I don't know. I mean, it's just the fact that, it was the first time that these two were meeting in the ring for 10 years. And I guess I just expected a little bit more. I mean, this was a match on the card that I was looking forward to. I just think that superstars of that caliber can put together a match that is far better than that. This should have been a 3.5 star match at least. We've seen Randy Orton put on great matches. The one that comes to mind is Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins back at WrestleMania 31, which I would argue was one of the top 2 matches on the card. It was great. And you can argue that a lot of that was Seth Rollins, but the fact of the matter is that match really highlighted the fact that Randy Orton is a great in-ring worker. But this match just kind of felt lackluster. That was it. Just average. 2.5 stars. So next up, I'm kind of going off the top of my head, so I may be mixing up the order. But next up, I believe we got Elias in the ring. And I'm not going to lie, this whole segment was pretty entertaining. Starts with Elias in the ring, trashing the audience as he always does. And he's just about to play when he gets interrupted by... who interrupted him? Who was the first person to interrupt him? Was it Aiden English? And Aiden English comes out and he starts singing himself. The crowd's going nuts for Rusev Day, and Rusev is probably the most over guy in the company right now, and it's just sad what they've done with Rusev. It's just sad what they've done with him. I mean, and it's not even what they've done with him; it's that they haven't done anything with him, and the crowd is making it like extremely obvious that they love him. I mean, he could be a top babyface, but it just seems like they've given up on him in a weird way. Aiden English is great. I think they make a good team, but I just think that Rusev is kind of above that kind of position. They're kind of a good comedy act every now and then, but I don't think he should be limited and restricted to that role. Do a lot more with him. Push him up. He's a great worker. And he can talk, and the crowd loves him. I mean, that's what you want in a babyface. There's very few guys on the roster that generate a real, authentic reaction from the crowd that's loud, and Rusev is one of them. Push him harder. So Aiden English comes out with Rusev to kind of interrupt him, and then Elias eventually, gets back on the mic and says, "Okay, turn out the lights. JoJo, introduce me again." She goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Elias." Then who comes out? No Way Jose. And he comes down, he's clapping. I'm sorry. So the first people to come out were the New Day. The New Day came out before Aiden English and Rusev, and they came out with their own instruments, and they wanted to play alongside Elias, but Elias was saying basically, I'm way better than you. Who are you to say you want to play alongside me? He pulled I'm the world's greatest musician or whatever, which I think is great. Elias is just phenomenal. He's going to go places. He's one of the only NXT stars that's actually, been very successful, and he himself generates a great reaction from the crowd. And in a weird way, when he's playing guitar and trashing the audience, I see a heel rock in him. Obviously he has a ways to go before he reaches that position, but I mean, he elicits the same kind of reaction as The Rock did when he would do his concerts and he was, playing the heel role. Elias is great. He's going to go far. The crowd really responds to him, and it's just so obvious that every time Elias is out in the ring, he just has the crowd, by the palm of his hand, which is really something to see because very few wrestlers can actually do that and pull that off. And there's very few wrestlers that the crowd cares about enough that they will kind of put themselves in that position. So it's just really cool to see when Elias does that. So New Day came out first. Elias gets back on the mic, says, "Jojo, introduce me again." He's about to play. Aiden English and Rusev come out. They talk. Elias says, "Okay, cut out the lights. Jojo, introduce me again." He's about to play. Next up, No Way Jose comes out. He's dancing, celebrating. Eventually, Elias says, "Okay, cut out the lights. Introduce me again." Jojo introduces him again. Who comes out? Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode's in the ring, gives him the glorious DDT, and then that's it. The segment ended. This was a long segment. I mean, it was about 20 minutes. And then No Way Jose, Bobby Roode, and the New Day, they all celebrate together as they're going up the ramp. This was a fun, entertaining segment. At first, it felt a little bit like something that could be on Raw, but then as it kind of picked up, it really did feel like something special. So this was a great segment, and I did enjoy it a lot. This was actually probably after the intro match, the first match, after the Seth Rollins Miz match, this was probably the second best part of the show. So after this, I believe it was the Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass match. It was okay, I guess. Nothing special. Probably give it 2.5 stars. Again, pretty average. Big Cass is all right. I think he's improved his look. He actually has some muscle and definition on him now. He's not just like tall flab. Daniel Bryan won when he put Big Cass in the yes lock, and Big Cass tapped out really fast. He tapped out after like literally a couple seconds. I don't know why they do that. I mean, it kind of just makes a wrestler look weak. I think especially because they're obviously trying to push Big Cass a little bit because he's just come back. So they're trying to make a name of him. Have Cass be able to withstand it a little bit, before he finally taps out. Don't make him tap out so quick. So again, the match was all right. Daniel Bryan looks great. He looks phenomenal. I mean, he doesn't look like he skipped a beat at all. He looks great. But again, the match, I mean, what do you expect from Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass? You're not going to get anything like too memorable. So average match, 2.5 stars. So next up, I kind of forget the order, but I believe it was possibly the second biggest disappointment of the night. It was AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Oh boy. Okay, where do I go with this? This match started out slow but okay. Then it got pretty good. And then it just got stupid. There was actually a really cool spot before I get to the fucking nightmare disaster that was the ending, where Shinsuke Nakamura was going for a Kinshasa. I think that's how you say it. And AJ Styles had a chair, and right as Shinsuke was about to nail him, AJ Styles just launched the chair into his knee. There was a loud crack. The chair ricocheted. This wasn't supposed to happen. The chair ricocheted off of Shinsuke's knee and grazed AJ Styles, bounced right back into AJ Styles' cheek, grazed him, and he started bleeding all over the place. This looked pretty nasty. They replayed it a few times, and you could tell AJ Styles was hurt. I mean, that was a nasty looking moment. So they go back and forth a little bit, and eventually Shinsuke gives AJ Styles the nut shot, the low blow. AJ kind of no-sells it, low blows Shinsuke right back. They fight a little bit afterwards. Keep in mind, this was a no DQ match, so this is why they weren't getting disqualified. They fight back and forth a little bit, and then the match ends when they both kick each other in the nuts. They fall down, and they don't get up before the ref counts to 10. That's it. Match is over. The crowd was visibly pissed. Visibly pissed. And I would be too. You know, that's a match that you get tickets to go see. And look, I get it that they could be building a storyline and that, you know, maybe the final match between the two will be a no disqualification, you know, let's say an Iron Man match, you know, or no holds barred where there are no 10 counts or anything. They could be building to like a final gimmick match, and that could be the match. But at the end of the day, you still gave us a shit ass fucking finish. A shit ass finish. It was so bad. So bad. Terrible. Horrible. God awful. Just dreadful finish. 2 stars. 2 stars. And it's sad because, you know, you see their New Japan match and you know what they're capable of, but it just feels like the company is, for whatever reason, restricting them and holding them back. That's what it feels like. I don't know if that's what's going on, but that's what it feels like. Just let them go out there and fight for 35, 40 minutes. Give us the match that they can put on, that everybody knows they can put on. But this was just a tremendous disappointment and just a stupid finish. 2 stars. Next up, we got Carmella versus Charlotte. Again, dreadful match. 1.5 stars, I would say. Carmella got way too much offense in, and she gets a clean win. You know, Carmella can't wrestle to save her fucking life. And everyone knows that. She's dreadful in the ring. She needs to drop the belt. You know, the match should have ended when, you know, let's say the iconic duo interfere, which would have made for kind of a cool moment for the pay-per-view, and beat down Charlotte. There's a disqualification, so Carmella gets to keep the title, but don't give Carmella the clean win. You know, 1.5 stars. Next up, we got Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Nothing great again, 2 stars. Bobby Lashley with the win. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn go back and forth. They're obviously teasing a split between the two of them. That was kind of the story of the match, was Kevin Owens and Sami going back and forth with one another. Braun Strowman's great, as always, and Bobby Lashley looks great as well. You know, I think he needs to clean himself up a little bit. I think he botches every now and then. You know, the company wants to make sure he doesn't end up hurting anyone. But he looked good in this match, you know, and I would love to see Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. But this match, again, nothing great. Average, 2 stars. And last up, we got Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. This match, where do I even go with it? It started off great. It started off brutal. Samoa Joe starts wailing on Reigns, eventually gets him outside of the ring, and just it's his choke slam type move that he does. I forget what it's called, but I'll just call it a choke slam, but it's not. But that's kind of what it looks like. Just throws Reigns right through the announcer table without picking up the stuff from the table at first. So the entire table just exploded. This was a really cool spot. And at this moment, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if they just let Samoa Joe squash Roman Reigns? They end the match in like a couple more minutes. Let's say, this is how I would have booked it. I would have had Samoa Joe throw Reigns through the table, right? The bell hasn't rung yet, so Joe can do whatever he wants. He grabs a chair, just starts wailing on Reigns. You know, he picks up Roman Reigns, places him against the barricade, shoulder tackles him through the barricade, you know, picks him up, throws him through a second announcer table. The second announcer's table explodes, wails on him some more with a chair, you know, reaches under the ring, picks up a kendo stick, places it kind of underneath his throat, wrenches Reigns' throat up and starts choking him with the kendo stick underneath his throat. Roman Reigns is maybe busted open a little bit. I believe that they can do blood now. In the right match, I don't think the company has too much of an issue doing it in the right match. So this could have been one of those matches to cap off the show with a bang. So he's choking him with the kendo stick underneath his throat. Throws the gets up with the kendo stick, snaps it on his knee, throws the sticks away, picks up Reigns, throws him through the third announcer's table. The table explodes, wails on him some more with the chair, picks him up, throws him into the ring, puts him in his choke. The bell rings eventually. Joe gives him 2 power bombs, then turns it into his chokehold that he does. Reigns taps out. 5-minute squash max, 5-6 minutes max. Reigns gets 0 offense in. I mean, how much better would that have been? That's the match that people wanted to see. Right? But instead, what did we get? Joe's on the offense for 90% of it. Then it's just a typical ending where Reigns comes back out of nowhere, Superman punch, spear, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I don't care if Samoa Joe kicked out of 1 spear. Who gives a shit? We knew that was going to happen. It's just the fact of the matter is that the match ended in such a predictable manner. So predictable and so bad that when the camera cut to the audience reaction after Roman Reigns had won, people wanted to just leave. You could see people getting up and leaving, and that never happens. Usually when a camera cuts to the audience to get a reaction, you see them still there cheering or booing, whatever they're doing, but at least they're still there. So bad. Roman Reigns is not the guy. This match gets 1.75 stars. Roman Reigns is not the guy. And I don't know what they should do with him, to be honest, because I don't even think turning him heel would make that much of a difference. I just don't think he is a top guy. I mean, just because you're big and have the look, I don't think that means you are going to get somewhere in the company. But we all know, we're going to see this kind of ending over and over and over and over again. At least with John Cena, he was versatile in his delivery when he was cutting promos. He looked like he could be a face. Roman Reigns doesn't look like a face. He looks like a dickhead, right? At least turn him heel. I don't think that's going to make a difference, but at least turn him heel. He is not a face. I mean, just look at him. Does he look like a face? Fuck no. Fuck no. Make Seth Rollins the guy. Turn Reigns heel. Experiment with that a little bit. Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. This show fucking sucked. It was probably worse than Battleground, to be honest. Because I actually found some humor and fun in the Punjabi prison match. The spot where one of the Singh brothers got launched off the structure into a table. That was pretty cool. That match had its moments. This show just flat out sucked. Aside from the first match, everything else was just god awful. This show gets a D-. And the only reason, again, that it's not getting an F is because of that first match. So I guess I got to give it a star format, actually, right? Because I've been starring every match. So I would say the show gets 1 star for that first match alone. That's it. 1 star. Dreadful show. Absolutely dreadful. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm pissed.